Right then, you lot. Welcome to Global Fact Trends, where we separate the wheat from the chaff, or something like that. Today we're talking about something bloody crucial if you're thinking of joining the world of muck and misery, choosing the right bloody farmland. Before we get stuck in, do us a favor and hit that subscribe button, would you? It's like giving a sheep a haircut. It won't kill you, and it makes everyone feel a bit better. And while you're at it, tell us in the comments what you think the most important thing is when picking a patch of land to farm. And don't even think about clicking away before the end, because you might just learn something. You never know, it could save you from making a right pig's ear of your farming ambitions. Now, before you get carried away with visions of fields of gold and prize-winning heifers, let's talk about the boring but bloody essential stuff, legalities. You see, not all land is created equal in the eyes of the law. First things first, you need to know what you're allowed to do on the land. Some councils, in their infinite wisdom, might have decided that your grand plans for a pig farm clash with their vision of a peaceful countryside. Zoning laws, they call it. Bunch of bureaucratic nonsense, if you ask me. But there you have it. And then there's the small matter of ownership. You don't want to find yourself in a right pickle after you've plowed your life savings into a farm, only to discover that some bloke named Nigel claims he owns half of it. That's why a title search is essential. It's like checking the oil in your tractor. A bit tedious, but potentially catastrophic if you don't do it. And speaking of potential disasters, don't forget about environmental regulations. You might be dreaming of spraying your crops with enough chemicals to make your eyes water, but the environmental agency might have other ideas. So do yourself a favor and check the regulations before you even think about unleashing your inner Walter White on the local ecosystem. Talk to the local authorities, get yourself a decent solicitor, and make sure everything's above board. It's like wearing wellies to a cow judging competition. It might not be glamorous, but it'll save you a whole lot of trouble in the long run. Now let's talk about the land's past, because just like choosing a wife, it's important to know what you're getting yourself into. The history of a piece of land can tell you a lot about its potential for farming success. If that field could talk, what tales would it tell? Was it once home to a thriving orchard, or did it spend the last century as a dumping ground for old tires and rusty tractors? You see, land has a memory, and sometimes that memory can come back to haunt you. Soil contamination is a right pain in the backside. If the previous owners were a bit liberal with the pesticides or decided to use the field as a dumping ground for toxic waste, well, let's just say your organic carrot farm dreams might be going up in smoke. And then there's nutrient depletion. Years of intensive farming can suck the life out of the soil, leaving it about as fertile as a tarmac driveway. You'll be pouring money into fertilizers just to get anything to grow, and nobody wants that. Don't be shy. Talk to the locals, have a chinwag with the previous owners, and get your hands dirty with a good old-fashioned soil test. It's better to uncover any nasty surprises before you sign on the dotted line. After all, you don't want to inherit someone else's agricultural nightmares. Right, let's talk about the lay of the land, because if there's one thing I've learned from my little foray into farming, it's that gravity is a right bastard. You see, the shape of your land can make or break your farming dreams. Flat land, now that's the dream, isn't it? Easy to work with, perfect for those massive tractors you've been eyeing up. Gently sloping, well, that's manageable. You might break a sweat plowing uphill, but at least you'll be able to tell your mates you're getting a workout. But steep slopes? Forget about it. You'll be wrestling your tractor up and down those hills, and I can tell you from experience, it's not a pretty sight. And don't even get me started on erosion. One heavy downpour and your precious topsoil will be washing down the river along with your profits. And then there's flooding. You don't want your fields turning into a bloody lake every time the heavens open, do you? So check the flood maps, have a look at the drainage, and make sure your land isn't going to turn into a swamp at the first sign of rain. Remember, you're not looking for a water park, you're looking for farmland. So keep it flat, keep it well drained, and keep your sanity intact. Now this is where the rubber meets the road, or should I say, where the tractor meets the market. Because when it comes to farming, location is everything. You could have the most fertile soil in the world, but if you're miles from civilization, you might as well be farming on the moon. First things first, proximity to markets. You don't want to be hauling your prize-winning pumpkins across the country just to find a buyer, do you? Find out where the demand is, see what the local competition is like, and make sure you're not stuck in the middle of nowhere. And then there's the small matter of suppliers. You're going to need feed, fertilizer, and probably a whole lot of duct tape to keep your farm running. The last thing you want is to be driving for hours just to pick up a bag of chicken feed. And let's not forget about infrastructure. You're going to need decent roads to transport your produce, storage facilities to keep it fresh, and maybe even a pub nearby for those essential after-work pints. So do your research, check the local amenities, and make sure you're not setting up shop in the middle of nowhere. Remember, farming is hard enough without adding unnecessary logistical nightmares into the mix. So, choose your location wisely and save yourself a whole lot of hassle in the long run. Now you lot, I'm not one to get all preachy about the environment, but even I can't ignore the elephant in the room, or should I say, the heat wave in the field. Climate change is real, it's here, and it's messing with our farming. You see, crops are fussy buggers. They like what they like, and if they don't get the right amount of sunshine, rainfall, and whatever else they fancy, they'll throw a right wobbly. And with the climate doing its best impression of a drunkard on a roller coaster, well, let's just say it's making life interesting for us farmers. Before you even think about planting a seed, do your research. Look at the historical climate data for the area, chat with the old boys down the pub, find out what grows well and what withers in the heat. And don't just think about the present, think about the future. Droughts, floods, heat waves, it's all on the menu, so you need to be prepared. Choose crops that can handle a bit of adversity, invest in some irrigation systems, and maybe build yourself an ark, just in case. Remember, climate change is a right pain, but it's not going away anytime soon. So, adapt, improvise, overcome, and all that jazz. Right then, let's talk about water, because without it, your farming dreams will dry up faster than a puddle in the Sahara. You can have the best soil, the perfect climate, but if your crops are thirstier than a camel in a desert, you're in trouble. Now, ideally, you want your land to be close to a reliable water source. A river, a lake, a well, anything that's not going to run dry the moment the sun comes out. But let's be honest, finding land with its own private water supply is about as likely as finding a unicorn riding a tractor. So what's the next best thing? Well, you need to get friendly with the local water table. That's the underground reservoir of water that keeps your plants hydrated. Get a hydrogeologist in, or if you're feeling adventurous, try dousing with a couple of coat hangers. I won't judge, and don't forget about rainfall. Check the local rainfall patterns, see how much water you can expect to collect, and invest in a decent rainwater harvesting system. It's like having a savings account for your crops. Every drop counts. Remember, water is the lifeblood of your farm, so make sure you've got a good supply, keep an eye on your usage, and don't let those precious drops go to waste. Right, let's get down to the nitty-gritty, shall we? The foundation of any good farm, the stuff that makes or breaks your harvest, is of course the soil. You can have all the fancy equipment in the world, but if your soil's about as fertile as a concrete slab, you're not gonna grow a bloody thing. Now, soil's a funny old thing. It's not just dirt, you know. It's a complex ecosystem teeming with life, or at least it should be. You want your soil to be alive, vibrant, full of worms and creepy crawlies doing their thing. First things first, texture. You don't want it too sandy, or your nutrients will wash away faster than a politician's promises. And you don't want it too clay-like, or it'll be about as easy to work with as a herd of angry badgers. Then there's the pH level. Too acidic, and your plants will sulk. Too alkaline, and they'll throw a right wobbly. You want that sweet spot in the middle, where everything's just right. And don't forget about organic matter. That's the decomposed plant and animal matter that gives your soil its richness and structure. Think of it like the compost heap of the earth. The best way to get to know your soil is to get your hands dirty. Dig a few holes, take some samples, and send them off for testing. It's like getting a blood test for your land. It might not be pretty, but it's better to know what you're dealing with. So there you have it. Choosing the right farmland is a bit like choosing a prize-winning cow. It takes a keen eye, a bit of luck, and a whole lot of common sense. The success of your farming business starts with choosing the right piece of land. By considering these 7 critical factors, soil quality, water availability, climate, location, topography, land history, and legalities, you can set yourself up for long-term success. Which of these factors do you think is most important? Let us know in the comments and stay tuned to Global Fact Trends for more tips and insights on farming and sustainable agriculture.